Morning everyone, it's me your friend Vansh. In today's class we'll be discussing about the chemical formula of compounds. So let's start the chemical formula. Of compounds. Molecules can be of an element or a compound. Diatomic molecules can be composed of two atoms of different elements. Compounds like carbon monoxide, nitric oxide, and hydrogen chloride are diatomic that contains two different types of elements. As you all know that what are diatomic elements? Elements which are composed of two atoms of same or different kinds. At the atoms in diatomic, triatomic, and polyatomic can be of same or different kinds also. Okay, so similarly, the carbon dioxide is triatomic. It contains one carbon and two oxygen atoms in a molecule. Its chemical formula is CO2. Glucose C6H12O6 is a polyatomic molecule that is formed by a large number of atoms, such same as diatomic. Carbon dioxide is an example of triatomic molecule that has three atoms of different kinds. So such as diatomic and triatomic. Glucose C6H12O6 is a polyatomic molecule. As you all know that polyatomic molecules are formed by a large number of atoms, more than four or more than four types of atoms, or more than four kinds of atoms. So here is table 7.4, some compounds and the molecular formula. One place is the name of compound and another place is the name of the molecular formula. Carbon dioxide CO2, ammonia NH3, calcium carbonate CaCO3, sodium hydroxide NaOH, silver nitrate AgNO3, and so on. So we have talked about the chemical formula of compounds also. So now let's study about valencies, ions. In this class we will study about only valencies only. So let's study about valencies. There is an animation video for you. Please understand it properly.
Hydrogen and helium. Apart from the difference in the number of electrons and their structure, can you tell me another difference between these two? Yes, the most important difference lies in the fact that hydrogen is capable of reacting with several other elements, while helium never really does. Helium is a quiet, unreactive element that does not participate in reactions. But have you ever wondered why? What makes helium and many other elements also quiet, unreactive element that does not participate in reactions? But have you ever wondered why? What makes helium and many other elements also like neon, argon not participate in chemical reactions? And another question we would have is what makes other elements react spontaneously with each other? The answer is valency. Yes, one of the most important factors for reaction is the concept of valency.
Valency is the combining power of an element.
Let's have a look at an important
It's the main
concept
explanation
called the
from a book.
configuration. Now what could this be? As the name suggests, we will try and grab the maximum number of chocolates using our hands. Similarly, the atoms would want to have maximum number of electrons their shells can accommodate. That means if it's just one shell like in the case of hydrogen or helium, then the atoms would want to have two electrons in it. That will be the outermost shell of the atom. This will help them achieve a stable state. Similarly, for all the other atoms having more than one shell, it's obvious that they will wish to have 8 electrons in their outermost shell. And why is this so? That's correct. It's because the outermost orbital of any atom can accommodate a maximum of 8 electrons in it. That is the reason why all the atoms of various elements are in a constant struggle of attaining 8 electrons in their last shell. That is, achieving the octet state. However, it's not possible for all to have 8 electrons in the outermost shell. Imagine the case of oxygen. It has a total of 8 electrons. So can we just have one orbital around the nucleus containing all the 8 electrons? Absolutely not. In fact, according to the rule, we have to fill 2 electrons in the first and the remaining 6 electrons in the second shell, because the capacity of the first shell is to accommodate a maximum of 2 electrons. So can we say that the electronic configuration of oxygen is 2,6? That's right. But now this indicates that oxygen does not have 8 electrons in the outermost shell. So how will it achieve its stable state? What can be done to have 8 electrons in the outermost orbital? Yes, oxygen can borrow or share electrons with atoms of other elements, right? Absolutely. This is how chemical reactions happen. Wait a second. Are we saying that chemical reactions occur because atoms of various elements give or take or share electrons between them? That even sharing of electrons between the atoms of elements give rise to formation of chemical bonds. This ultimately gives us a compound. Now you tell me, how will the atoms decide how many electrons are to be given or accepted? How will they understand that electrons need to be shared with the other partner? Who decides all this? Well, the answer to all these questions is, why does bond formation take place? Can you give me the answer? Yes, it takes place because atoms are always in a constant struggle to reach the stable state. And what is this stable state? Well, if the atoms have only one shell, then the stable state is achieved when 2 electrons are present in it. And if the atom has 2 or more than 2 shells, then the stable state is achieved when the outermost shell contains 8 electrons. It's called an octet. But the stable state is seen only in case of a few elements. We know that elements like helium, neon, argon, etc. have atoms with such desired electronic configuration. But what about the case of atoms which do not have this octet? Yes, they will participate in bond formation. That means they will either give or take or share electrons. But wait, who decides how many electrons will participate in the bond formation? Or who tells the atoms if they've to give or take electrons? Well, the answer to these questions is valency. Let's understand this concept in detail. In simple words, valency is defined as the combining capacity of an element. Now, what exactly do we mean by this? When we say combining capacity, that means how much can an atom bond with another atom. Does that mean how many electrons can be given or taken or even shared? Yes. Does the capacity of an atom to give electrons, accept electrons, or even share them in order to achieve the octet state can be termed as its valency. And what about the case of elements with just one shell? That's correct. Trading of electrons is carried out for attaining 2 electrons in the outermost and only orbital in such atoms. Let us take simple examples to understand this. In case of hydrogen, we have just 1 electron in the outermost shell. That means it has to somehow add 1 more electron to the outermost shell. Thus, we find that the valency of hydrogen is 1 as it accepts or sometimes even shares electrons with atoms of other elements. So can you tell me the valency of oxygen now? The electronic configuration of oxygen is 2, 6. That means it has 6 electrons in the outermost shell. So how many electrons are needed to complete the octet? Yes, 2 electrons. Electrons are needed to complete the octet? Yes, 2 electrons. Thus the valency of oxygen is 2. It accepts or takes 2 electrons from other atoms for completing the octet. Now tell me, what will be the valency of magnesium? We know that magnesium has 12 electrons. That means the electronic configuration of magnesium is 282. So how many electrons will be needed now? 6. That's correct. And that's what we're able to see. 6 electrons are needed to complete the octet. But which atom will give away 6 electrons so easily? Is it even possible? Not really. Then how will magnesium complete its octet? This is where the concept of donating electrons comes into the picture. If managing the gain of 6 electrons is difficult, then can it think of giving or donating the 2 electrons? Yes, absolutely. So if magnesium gives away 2 electrons from its outermost shell, then we say that the valency of magnesium is 2. That means it's not only about how many electrons can be taken, but also about how many electrons can be given by the atom. That is how we calculate the valencies of various elements. Now, to understand the concept better, let's take an example of elements forming one compound. Maybe we can think of sodium chloride. For the formation of one molecule, we need one atom of sodium and one atom of chlorine. What are the valencies of each, by the way? Sodium has the electronic configuration 281, while chlorine has an electronic configuration 287. Before I tell you what happens, I want you to give it a shot. What do you think will happen? Doesn't this indicate that sodium will donate one and chlorine will accept one electron to complete their respective octet state? Yes, that's absolutely correct. And that is what helps in the formation of sodium chloride molecule. Chlorine needed one electron which it got from sodium, and sodium gave one electron as it was the easiest way to achieve stability. So the valency of both sodium and chlorine is 1. Does this mean that only elements having the same valency always combine together to form a bond? Not really. Just take the simple example of a water molecule. We have seen that the valency of hydrogen is 1 while that of oxygen is 2. Here, hydrogen needs 1 electron while oxygen needs 2 electrons. Both need electrons. So how do the atoms combine in this case? How will the bond formation take place then? Well, they will both share electrons with each other. But how? It's not that straightforward. We will understand it in one of our future videos. For now, we have combines with 2 hydrogen atoms to give us 1 water molecule. This is how atoms with different valencies combine with each other to form compounds. Now that we know how the concept of valency works, let's have a look at how the atoms come together to form independent units. Let's discuss the concept of molecules in the next